So, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Nat, and today we are going to be talking about Queen's Gambit. It's going to be very spoiler heavy, so I hope you've all read the book. So this is your spoiler warning. It's going to be an open chat, so if I'm just going to bring up talking points, and if anyone's got anything to say, great. If not, we'll move on to the next point. Just to start with, everyone should know this. Most of you guys know it, but Stephanie doesn't. I am a massive Louis-Cesare fan. I am Louis-Cesare's biggest fan. Is what I'm known as in the group. So he's probably going to feature quite a lot in this chat. But yeah, if you've got anything you'd like to talk about, if we get to the end of it and you think I really want to talk about that and it's not come up, by all means, chat away. So we're going to start with some themes in the book. One of the biggest themes in this book, I thought, was relationships in general. The obvious ones were Dory and Louis-Cesare's new marriage, and the change and the growth within their relationship. Darina and Ray was a massive new relationship. They never really interacted before, so it was really nice to see two characters who hadn't spent any time together really getting to know each other. And then the other one, the really big one, was actually Dorina and Mircea in the past, and how Mircea reacted to Dorina as a character, as a individual, and why he locked her away. So they're the points that we're going to start with. So we'll start with those relationships. So the first point is Dory and Louis-Cesare. Obviously, this relationship is been developing over the 5 books, and at the end of the book appeared to be in a very good place, but obviously wasn't midway through the book. How does everyone feel about Louis-Cesare this book?
I feel like he's become more human in a sense. That like he's showing like his weaknesses, and especially in that relationship, and acknowledging them, because so far, especially in the beginning of their relationship, it was always like he's this very strange person. They're so different from each other, and she kind of just accepted that, and now he's actually, I don't know, even like taking her views into account of like how he acts and like the power dynamics too. So yeah,
he was always very proper with her. He's a very, very strong sense of duty around him, and he believed she was his duty. He was all in, so she's the most important person to him now. I did want to strangle him about 4 times in this book. While I understand that Louis-Cesare is very broken, particularly very broken by Jonathan, who is clearly the antagonist of this novel, he was able to put aside that fear, and that fear, he was actually able to let go of that fear by the end of the book, which is what I love about him. He's able to, after 400 years of being very specific, he's able to finally let it go, let this thing that's been holding him back for years, he's finally be able to say, actually, yeah, I can let go and allow you to be yourself, and I don't have to protect you. You're strong enough, and I don't need to protect you at all times. We can protect each other as a couple. So I really enjoyed that aspect of their relationship.
Yeah, and that Jonathan came back, and like Louis-Cesare kind of got that closure, like seeing him in a weak spot again. Because I thought, like, with the last Cassie book, I thought that she kind of took it from him. Obviously, like, she not intentionally necessarily, but still, like, I like that he got that closure, and that it really helped him, like, in his relationship with Dorina.
And Karen definitely said that Jonathan was his master obsession. So with him actually gone, that fear of him breaking down further, which other vampires do, is gone. It's removed. They've solved the issue of Jonathan, and so he's I think he's much more likely to be a bit more, I mean, he's never going to be laid back, this is Louis-Cesare, but he may be a little bit more. Anyone else, Sonia? Got any opinions?
Yeah, I was so torn when he protected Dory, or he tried to protect Dory, wants to protect her, because on one side I think it's cute and I can understand him, because it's the person he loves most and he doesn't want her to get hurt, and you want to protect your loved ones no matter what background you have. But on the other hand, it was like, dude, no.
Stop running away, dude. Stop running away.
No, look at her face. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He struggles with, he obviously struggles with interpersonal relationships because he hasn't had any. He didn't have a relationship with Radu. He didn't have a relationship with any of his extended vampire family, and he had no relationship experience with any of his actual birth family either. He was abandoned by everybody. So I guess there's that feeling of running away to protect them is all he sees. Radu ran away to protect me. My mother ran away to protect me. Maybe I should run away to protect her. But yeah, it was the wrong thing to do. Okay.
It was a really, really big fight. And there was a moment where I really wasn't sure how this would end.
I know she mentioned something about like if he doesn't change, that's it, we're over. And I was proper like, no, that can't happen. So I'm really glad he sorted his shit out. Well done, boy. Okay, so I think we'll move on to the next one, which is Darina and Ray. Ooh, cute candle. What have we got? It's a salty butterscotch. I like it.
It might have been backwards. Yeah, my LC candle.
Oh, I've got a shampoo that smells like butterscotch, and every time I use it, I think oh yeah, so Darina and Ray. As a new, I've put friendship because currently it's definitely a new friendship relationship. And I say we've never seen them before. I really liked their dynamic, like a lot. I liked the fact that Darina helped him without any need to. She could have put him out of his misery and gone about doing whatever she needed to do in Fairy to get back, but she didn't. She saved him and actually like lent on him and his knowledge of the world, because her innocence and naivety could definitely have gone against her in Fairy. So with him knowing Fairy quite well, I liked that dynamic of him showing her how things were there whilst she got him out of the shell. What did everyone think of and by the way, I totally ship them, but I shouldn't, but I do. They're my new ship.
Me too. I ship them too. I really liked seeing Ray actually. I mean, he comes across as such a dumpster fire character, but then he was so competent in the last book. I mean, yeah, he was still kind of getting his ass kicked, but he knew where to go. He knew how to get away from the guys. I really love seeing that side of Ray.
Yeah, I like him being funny but useful. And he's been on and off in the last few books where he's always useful at points, but he's definitely comic relief more often than not. And I liked that he was more useful in this book. And
yeah. I also like that he's not just a plot device, but he's becoming like his own character that also like interacts way more with others, and like through their eyes we see other sides of him too. And with Dorina, I thought it was really like interesting, like them getting to know each other and everything, especially since like we don't know like what's gonna happen to her, like in person or not, and then like them already having some sort of relationship will definitely help.
Definitely. I was like, I
Maybe
always love
Ray.
Ray.
Maybe Ray will be the one to save everything. Yeah, who knows?
I don't want him to be sacrificed. I'm worried after Billy Joe. I'm worried.
Well, I always think if she was going to kill him off, he'd be dead by now. How many times has he had body parts removed? 3. I think we're at 3 now. He's lost his head, he lost his spine, and then he lost all his limbs. I mean,
What will she think of next?
what does she think of next? I was like, God, she's actually at that teaser she put out for this book, and it finished on him being ripped apart and then them all being sucked into fairy. And I was like, oh my God, she's actually done it. She's killed Ray. I really thought he was dead. I'm so glad he's not.
I avoided the teaser somehow. I never read it until I just had the book in my hand and I finally sat down and read it.
I gasped out loud at that bit. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh my God, Ray, no, not again. What? I really, I thought it was 50-50. She killed him, or there would be a chance he would survive that. He can take a beating.
For such a low-level master, I mean, he's only a 5th level master. That guy can take a lot of damage and keep going, which leads me to believe that, like, Louis-Cesare is almost unkillable. And Merchant, at that level, they must. I know they talk about them being like entire armies, but like they must be. If Ray can come back from having all 4 of his limbs ripped off, then it must be almost impossible to kill a 1st level master vampire.
And that's, yeah, he also has a whole family himself, doesn't he?
He does, and apparently that's quite rare for his level. I think he might have leveled up without realizing, but I don't know. There's nothing to prove that. But apparently it's really rare for someone at his level to have an actual family.
Yeah.
I want to see
like-
his family. Sorry, Sonia.
I think that's like with many characters, they have that, right? Like just like Billy Joel and so many others that like have this background of always being stomped over, and they're so resilient and resourceful because of that. So even he might have leveled up, but like I feel like much of his strength and so on is just like his mindset that he's been through so much, he survives through much, he will carry on.
It's a good point. Unlike our main characters, beaten down, but they keep on going.
And I really like the fact that Ray is such a good person. I mean, there are so many vamps, and they are centuries of years old, and compared to Murtra and Marlowe and all the others, he's not, or he doesn't seem to be that damaged. He's a good character despite whatever crap he's gone through.
He's another character that's been a little bit abandoned over the years. They mentioned that obviously he's mixed. He's a mixed race. His mother's Filipino and his father was like I think he said he was like a French invader or something. He was a colonizer. Dutch. So he was turned because he looked Western. So Chung turned, I think it was Chung who turned him, or potentially someone else. But they were like, oh, well, you must be able to speak the languages and we'll take you with us. And he couldn't. So he felt he was passed around a lot. So he has the same kind of abandonment issues that Louis-Cesare and Dory have, really. That whole kind of, I guess a lot of vampires probably have that, thinking about it, particularly the ones that are passed around a lot. You're feeling of what are they good for? But it didn't twist Ray, which I like about him. It didn't make him bitter, just sarcastic and cynical.
This
But
is super out of left field, but you know, remember that head Ming Day has to speak
yes.
to everyone? For some reason, Ray reminds me so much of that head, and I want to know who that head was and what kind of character he would have been. And
Yeah. He was someone from the East India Company. Ahead, wasn't he?
and I have my own headcanon that Ray gets like decapitated and sent back in time and has this whole like torturous existence in the past.
It becomes an
But I know it's not the same.
translator. I wonder if Ray can even actually speak Chinese. He must be able to. His boss was Chinese.
Yeah.
And Cassie picked up Italian when she was living with her.
Yeah. He's a couple
Recorded.
of 100 years old, so he must have picked it up. So yes. Okay. So let's move on to Darina and Mitchell. What does everybody think of Mircea in this book? Now, obviously, this is historical Mircea. We don't ever see contemporary Mircea. But it's probably the least I've liked him in a long time. And I'm not a huge fan of him in general, but I like him as a character. But I wanted to... He locked his daughter away for 500 years because he didn't understand what she was. And I found that horrendous. He considers himself a monster, so he obviously considered that part of his daughter to also be a monster. But we've discovered now that obviously she's part fae, so she's more than just a vampire. So it's... What does everybody think? Did everybody agree? Does everyone think Mitchell was more than out of line, or did they understand where he was coming from?
It just reminds me of a parent playing favorites so much. Like, I know there's sort of one person, but also sort of two people. So I just hated seeing Dory get so much more love and care, I guess. And
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It also said something about Dorina, like how did she manage over these hundreds of years of like this torture? Because so far we didn't quite know what her role was or like how much she was involved, but her not having a life at all and knowing why, and over hundreds of years, and gets she's still not completely mad or like, or doesn't even hate her father that much. Like how she doesn't even resent Dory, she's not even like jealous, she just wants to protect her. That was really, that's quite an arc there. I mean,
it's a fascinating character trait to not actually be jealous of the other half of you for getting the life you never got to have. And definitely, I mean, I would hate my father if he did that to me. And the fact that she doesn't, and she's like, no, I get where he was coming from. He did it wrong, but I get it. That's insane. She's a better person than most people.
now I kind of want to see a showdown between Dory and Dorina. Dory would probably get her butt kicked, but I don't know because she's resourceful.
That's Dory's big thing, isn't it? I mean, we were trying to work out like what the breakdown, who got what in the split, because Dory is obviously not just human, and Dorina is not just pure vampire. There's a fae bit in there, and it's like what goes where. And so obviously I said that I think Dory got all the natural stuff, so she's the human and the pure, and she's part fae, whereas Dorina's got the vampire side and the whatever came from the gods, so the experimental side. Because Dory's really strong, even though she's technically not the vampire part of the two. So I guess she must have got possibly some fae strength or something.
didn't lose much. I was also wondering, like, the change in her wasn't that great, that I was like thinking, like, then what did she contribute, or what did Dorina contribute then all this time? Like, how does that power dynamic work, and what does it mean, like, for her seat in the Senate, obviously? Like,
Yeah, who gets the seat in the Senate? If they say split up, technically it's Darina's seat, not Dory's. So it'd be interesting to see. But the one who's married to Louis-Cesare is Dory, not Dorina. And Dorina's definitely more of a wild card when it comes to agreeing with everybody else. So the likelihood is that Mircea would want it to be Dory who held the seat, because she's the one who's more likely to agree with him. Not in everything, though. And also, he thinks his other daughter's a monster. So
I think Dory would be better on the. Sorry, Nat. I think Dory would be better on the consul or the Senate, because I just don't see Dorina like getting it, honestly. I mean, Dory can say she's terrible at politics, but look at this last book. She like makes friends with Hassani and his court. She still holds her own on the Senate, and I don't know. I just don't see Dorina even cooperating at all.
no, she'll just do whatever she wants. She's very moral, but she's not going to be. She can't play the politics game at all. So you're right. Of the two, Dory is definitely the more appropriate choice, and I'm sure that will come up in another book.
Do you think that Dorina is able to drink babe blood? Was it mentioned in Queen's Gambit? I'm not sure.
I don't think she needs to, does she? I don't think she needs to drink blood at all.
Because she didn't drink any. I was also wondering, like, if she was that much, like, if she was the entire vampire part, even with a bit of Fae added, then how all of us, like, but then she doesn't need blood, but then Dory, while they were both in the same body, didn't need blood either. So maybe Dorina could live on both.
I know it's not very clear, because they talk about her being the vampire, the pure vampire part, but she's still not. She's still part something else. So I guess maybe as soon as you're not 100% vampire, the bloodlust thing disappears, maybe. Who knows? I think she needs food, though. Did they eat?
Yeah, she did eat.
Yeah, she ate. So she does need food. Oh, that's okay then.
I think they caught fish and stuff, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it would appear that she doesn't need to drink blood, which is good. At least it's consistent. And what you mentioned Hassani, what did everyone think of Hassani in this book? I thought he was really a really interesting character, because the few times we've seen him, he's been very aloof and didn't appear to be very approachable, but actually seemed like he was kind of fun for a consul. And a very old one at that.
Yeah. I think he was useful, because obviously with all the knowledge he was trying to convey, not too successfully, but I also thought he was very authentic as a character with the teacher part and all that. I generally love every time the books go into a different country, and they're all for the most part it's all really, really authentic. And bringing the culture in it, but also him being so old. And then I love also finding out about the history of him and his ancestors, and also the North American consul, because she also comes from that region, and how it all plays together. And I love that he had to take over a throne and then a second time, and then this skin coming back, that was a bit when he was going all madman, lighting everything up. That's when I thought he was just one of the crazy ones. But it all made sense in the end. So
yeah, it was a bit confusing, the section with the big giant snake, and that I was a bit confused. I was like, why is he come back to life? I thought he was dead. But when we found out he was actually a demigod, it was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I get it now. But yeah,
I think that
Oh, go ahead.
I think that Hassani seems he seems more human than the consul, or not as cold as her. She always seems cold and distant and unreachable, untouchable to me. And I didn't feel that with him.
Yeah, I think the consul has friends, or the consul doesn't have friends. Cleo doesn't have friends, but I think Hassani has friends. And I think, I don't know. I don't know if Cleo's gonna live through the series. Dwan's pretty sure she's gonna make it, but I don't know.
I'm a bit like, I think if nothing happens to Mircha, then he will replace her. That's what I think. One of them's going. I don't think either of them can survive till the end of the series together. They don't trust each other enough. See, one of the others going, but I don't know who yet. We'll see.
And Hassani, I was so prepared to hate him. I was prepared to hate their court. I was like, oh, I don't want to read this. But then I got so into it. He turned like hilarious, just like, oh, I've got a note from your boyfriend. Like even that was just so goofy. And I loved it. And he's really trusting her a lot, even though, you know, he didn't trust her at all, but he did. He kind of had to, and he was willing to kind of get down and dirty, make that alliance, I think. I respect him now a lot, and I think he's funny. And I love that scene where she's describing all the food. Oh, I never thought I'd want Egyptian food, but like, damn, it sounds so good. All of it.
It did. It sounded really nice.
I wonder if she went there, Karen.
Must have.
Yeah, that or she's done some serious research.
But with everything, like with all the other cities too, like she's been there, the streets they met, like everything like adds up, like always.
Yeah, she's more than likely been. I mean, there's a previous history teacher as well. I'd be very surprised if she's not.
But also like the multi-dimensional characters, like especially at that court, you know, she could have just written them like as like your stereotypical Muslim guys and nobody would have like questioned it, but they're just multi-dimensional normal people. Like they argue about if they can drink or not, if like that much like pork in that Asian dish would be fine, you know, the usual stuff. And I like that a lot. But also like the shitty non-alcoholic drinks and so on. It was so authentic.
And what's the doctor's name? I forget her name. I think it started with an M, maybe. But you know, the one who healed Dory a little bit. I thought she was really cool. And were they saying that she was the first female physician in Egypt? Was that like her? Sorry, I'm asking you guys a question. I was confused by that.
I don't know,
I don't know.
But it would make sense.
Anyway, I thought she was an interesting character too.
Yeah, she was good. I liked her a lot. Yeah, I would have liked to see a bit more of her. So hopefully she'll come back. Okay. So the next section is returning characters. So we've got several characters we've met in previous books that all returned this one. And the most obvious one to talk about is obviously Thomas, the bumbling idiot of first level master vampires. How that guy became a first level master, I don't actually know, because he really is a dum-dum. We mentioned this in one or two of the calls, but oh my god, Thomas and Louis-Cesare fighting may have been the funniest thing about this book. I think Duan mentioned it's like the Family Guy Chicken and Peter fights, that every time they see each other they just fight until one of them gets pulled off and has to go somewhere else. And that seemed a bit accurate in this book. They really just needed to sit down and talk, but apparently that's not possible. Instead they just fought like kids. And so did anyone really think that they possibly might have had to have read Day of the Dead before reading this book? I didn't. It's been ages since I read that short. I was like, who are all these people? Apparently they're in that.
I read it years ago and I forgot about everything almost. I have to reread so much. Yeah. I will.
Same. Yes.
That's just because nothing is written without a reason.
Yes.
Remember everyone, because you will meet them again.
But I love that. I love, like, in the first Cassie book, we already got that dynamic between Thomas and Louis-Cesare, and it picked right off there. I love that because, like, the first Cassie book is still, like, closest to my heart. It's the first one I ever read, obviously, and like them continuing that, but also, I mean, she had hinted that he would come back, but I had no idea how, and like in that setting, I just didn't expect it. I thought he was gonna try to take over another Senate because, like, wartime, you know, good chance.
Yeah, why didn't he go kill Alejandro? Like, that's literally all he talked about doing. That was his, like, thing, wasn't it? I need to go and kill Alejandro. I have to kill him. I have to kill him. Instead, he picked up a new girlfriend and went to Hong Kong? The other Hong Kong? Like, how did that happen? I know I want a shot on how they ended up in New Hong Kong. It just seems really odd that this group got there.
I always expected him to show up in Fairy. So I thought they would invade in Fairy and then probably one fine day meet Tony and his guys, and or probably they would have met some other Fae, and that Thomas would have hidden there or done whatever, but I didn't expect that either.
Yeah, I'm also wondering, how did he leave? Is it something I missed? Because, like, he was at the court and Cassie had, like, ensured that he was safe and everything, and all of a sudden, like, he's going on adventures and so on his own, and he's fine, but he's not on the power trip anymore. So yeah,
it's a bit weird. One thing I will say is something I remember from one of the earlier books is the king who was looking after him was captured by somebody, we don't know whoever's on the side of the gods anyway, because his wife, who's the Morrigan, is the one who tried to kill Cassie. And she said that she was made to do it and it was because they'd taken her husband. Without his protection, I guess, and in the chaos of him leaving, I guess Thomas could have just left or been told to leave, I guess. So it might be interesting to see if he actually explains how he got out. That would be kind of cool. I guess if we see him with Cassie, she'll probably ask the question.
But does that mean Tomas is kind of free of Louis-Cesare, or is Louis-Cesare still exerting that master control, or will he start again?
I don't think he's going to, because the whole reason he did was because Alejandro had Christine. So he didn't really want to, and I think he even mentioned in one of the books that he did it because he had to, and Thomas had done nothing wrong. It was what he had to do. I don't think he told Thomas that, because why would you tell your servant why you're being forced to make him your servant? But I assume why would he want to? Just to say
that was Tomas's obsession, right? It was Alejandro, his master obsession.
Yeah.
So now that it's sort of abated a little bit, maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's still there, but anyway, I think he would have died without Louis-Cesare, for sure. He would have been.
Oh, definitely.
There's
absolutely no way that he wouldn't have failed at that one, because he's a dummy. He's a big dummy. He's very pretty, but he's stupid. But we decided the other day he's not a himbo because he's not nice enough to be a himbo. He's just pretty and stupid. Um,
I just remembered when it was 2007 and Kate gave me the book for the first time. And I started reading, and then there was Thomas, and he was wearing those leather pants and the gothic net shirt, and it's like, oh no.
The mesh top.
No way, I don't want to read that. But I kept reading, and here I am, 13 years later.
Can you believe in the first book we thought it was going to be a love triangle between Thomas and Mitchell? Like, that's what it felt like. I felt like that was the love triangle, and then like halfway through book 2 we were like, oh, it's the short blonde dude.
And Pritkin was such a jerk. Oh my god.
One Pritkin's awful. I try and pretend book 1 Pritkin didn't really exist, like he was possessed or something. What was my next point? Oh, Zheng Zi, the lovely Zheng. He was amazing in this book. He was so much fun. I mean, he's always fun, but I really like his relationship with Dory. In his eyes, Dory's absolutely his equal. Yeah. They're friends, and he quite happily jump in and help her if needs be. And Dory doesn't have enough people who throw all in with her. So Zheng's really high up on my good dude list because he absolutely called her babe. I know. So I was like, hi babe. I'm like, oh. Don't say that in front of Louis-Cesare, I will beat you up.
They're so secure in each other. So annoying. They don't get jealous. Remember when he was like checking out someone and he was like, it's an interesting art style or something. It was like about the belly dancing.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of like, okay, knock it off. But then later she was like, watching some guys. I think they were topless or something.
He was like, are you looking at them? Like, it's an interesting art style.
But they're so obviously only into each other. It's so cute.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
I can't get the image out of my head of him wearing that kimono with the coconuts and stuff in Siren Song together with Pritkin.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. Ever since I think of him, as a Zheng Zi wearing that Chinese woman dress, whatever.
It's funny. I like the fact he doesn't take himself seriously. As a vampire, it's in a world where vampires are very serious as a rule. He's very fun.
Yeah, he's such an outsider character too, like everyone else, because he's really worried he's going to get killed by his side, and he's worried he's going to get killed by this new side, the North American Senate. He's just trying to make alliances with someone he does trust, Dory and her ilk. So I love Zheng. I love him so much.
He's a great character. I hope we see a lot more of him because he's just so fun. Fun. What do we all think of the weird characters from his club slash what was it a brothel? They were interesting. What was the name of the boobs on legs? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I think
I'll look it up. Mean Braham, Rashid, and but I think Rashid was Hassani's guy. Braham and
no, we're talking about the boobs. The boobs.
Sorry?
The boobs on
legs. Bertha. It's Bertha.
Oh, Bertha. Oh, Bertha.
Bertha.
I can give you a little spoiler to the Monster Panel.
That's a great picture. I love that.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. That's gonna be my first tattoo.
The picture I had in my head, the boobs were much bigger and the legs were a lot shorter. So she was just literally like these tiny little legs and these giant boobs. That makes way more sense.
She must have been intimidating because that other guy was really, he was impressed.
I mean, it's what most guys are interested in, isn't it? So just walking boobs is probably a man's dream.
Such a safe place for the kinks. I mean, you just want to go have sex with a giant pair of boobs? We got a place for you here.
No shame in there. None whatsoever. We'll just make money off you.
Yep.
Oh, the sneaky return of Marlowe. Why? Why is Marlowe in Fairy?
And so
Why is he?
and so unsuccessfully, like
That's Marlowe style.
Is he ever not like in trouble?
I think that's one thing he's got in common with Cassie.
Yeah.
Nothing works out as planned.
His plan is to get rescued every time. Yeah, it absolutely is. Because I don't even know if he's ever got a plan. He just kind of throws himself into everything, doesn't he?
Someone who supposedly has his network everywhere. My God, does he suck at going around as a spy himself right now?
He's the worst spy. Like, I get he's now got a reputation, but he plays off that reputation. That reputation is everything, and he is definitely not his reputation.
Like a Jack Sparrow.
It's like him being scary, but he's like, there's nobody less scary than Marlowe.
I'm not sure he doesn't. I'm not sure if he doesn't do it on purpose. And he did really good with Fred, managing to get Fred into the Pythian court and telling him stuff. I mean, Marlowe was probably the first one who knew who Pritkin was.
Yes.
So
that is true. Although he did say Fred was his best. He made a big point of saying Fred was his best, didn't he? Like, I'm losing my best man. So if Fred's your best, what are the rest of them like? And I love Fred, but let's be honest, he's a disaster. Everyone in this book's disastrous. It's like nobody's cool at all. That's what's the best thing about it, I think.
But I don't know, I find it so fascinating, like Kid and Cassie have this relationship and mutual respect because like they always find themselves like in trouble, and like Dory on the other side like makes friends by like being this badass and like getting respect that way from Zhang and Hassani and whatnot. And I feel that's so interesting, like if you were to like group the characters like to which they would belong, like alongside these features and like in which books they were in. Yeah.
I like with it being two different point of views, I like reading about the same character from two different point of views. It's really interesting how they talk about joint characters. Cassie always talks about the vampires in her books like the big bads and scary, that she knows they're very powerful. But Dory doesn't. Dory talks about the vampires like they're equals or even less.
This one's a little harder to kill.
Yeah,
this one's a little easier to kill.
This one's a little easier. Like, oh, it's not difficult to kill a second level master vampire. I just coat the thing in wax and there we go, chop his head off. Like, it's so weird reading the same descriptions and them being, it's the same person, but how they view them is so very different. It's just interesting to see the narrative style and how it plays through on all the characters. Like, Cassie was scared of Louis-Cesare, like very scared of Louis-Cesare. Now it's because of how he related to the Pythian power and how he was the link to going back in time. But obviously that's not how Dory saw him. like straight away she's like, ooh, hot dude.
But he was also weird to Cassie, like with his weird clothes, and then he was kind of arrogant and cool.
Because of course that was Louis-Cesare from a different timeline. The one we've ended up with is a different Louis-Cesare. He had a different life, which is also interesting. I'd really like to think how he'd be now if he'd had if he was cursed instead, and how different his life might have been.
He was hilarious with Cassie in the first couple books where she's kind of going back in time at Dante's and she's in two places at once and he's like, excuse me, miss, you're quite insane now. I'll escort you back. I thought that was like so polite and hilarious and misogynistic. It was just so funny.
In his yellow satin, which was literally never explained, and he's never worn an outfit like that again. Like, no one's ever explained why the guy was in such a ridiculous outfit.
Yeah.
He wanted to look good. He wanted to look good for the Senate meeting.
We wanted to look age appropriate. I'm old. What was my next talking point? Okay, Jonathan. Let's talk about Jonathan. Do you think Dory will find out that? That Cassie saw him naked? Probably not. I don't think it'll come up. Not just saw him naked though, did she? She technically had sex with him inside someone else's body. So weird. That scene was really weird, by the way.
They would have a lot to talk about, should they like really?
If they ever sat down, yeah. Yeah, it would be interesting to get each other's kind of histories of stuff, and yeah, it would be fun. Pass. Okay. Oh, Jonathan, that's what I was talking about. Jonathan, is he finally dead, do we believe? Definitely dead this time, isn't he? Not coming back.
No, now we've got to deal with his ghost.
Yeah. She does like to bring necromancers back again and again and again, doesn't she? It is a theme.
I think this is the big sacrifice Billy Joe made, so I really hope she won't bring him back again.
Oh, right, because he tackled him into the ferry, right? So that he wouldn't leave a ghost. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Yes. And then he actually already split off a part of himself, and that was dead. So he was trying to put himself in a fey body, I think. I don't really get it. There was a point. It failed. I don't think he's coming back.
It will be too much.
It would be a bit, yeah, I think coming back 3 times or whatever is plenty, isn't it? Oh, my last point, the one we were looking for. Do we think Dorina is going to stay as her own person?
Better. I love her. She better. I hope she stays.
I hope to. It would be so sort of devastating if they should share one body again. I mean, they're 2 different persons, so that would be so unfair. Yeah. So I think either one of them, I hope both of them survive everything, but I don't know. With current chance, I think you never know. But I think they will stay separate characters. I hope.
I mean, Billy Joe's the biggest character that she's ever killed off. So it would be, I didn't think she'd ever kill anyone that important off, actually. I know he was already dead, but you know what I mean, like not coming back dead. So the idea of creating the character of Dorina and then killing her off would be pretty awful. Like, here's this person you're now attached to, and you're not only attached to them, you've got their point of view. And now I'm going to send them off to kill the gods, and then they're going to die. Because I assume she's going to be heavily involved in the fight against the gods, because she's essentially a successful hybrid, isn't she? She's what they were working towards and has actually happened accidentally. So I assume she's going to be heavily involved in that fight. And I assume she's going to stay alive and her own person. I agree with everyone else. I think if you merge them back into one person, you're essentially destroying that second person, because Dory is the dominant personality. You would be essentially saying that Dorina's no longer alive as an individual, and that would be pretty awful. And I think the only reason she'd do it is to save Dory's life.
Yeah, but I think like they can, like, per se, they can live on their own. They don't miss any important powers apparently being apart. And I feel like it might be like in battle, it might be like a really good trick. So as long as nobody else knows that they're like split, to like have a doppelganger, like confuse everybody, stuff like that. That might be really useful.
Yeah, so not a lot of people know that they're separate, so it would be useful. Oh, bye, Sonia.
Bye.
She's going to go prep for hers now. Are you going to go prep? Bye, darling.
See you later, guys.
See you later. We pretty much, I've covered most of my points, but if anyone's got anything else they want to talk about, they were sort of my main talking points, really.
I'm just curious, like the last part, like when we found out that Masha was like in fairy and everything, it made sense. It was hinted at, like that he might do that eventually, but I just hadn't realized, like in the last Cassie book, that he was gonna do that in like wartime, that he was gonna try to, like, what, like on his own. I didn't see that coming, and now I'm like confused, like what is he doing? I mean, I know it's his obsession, but I didn't know it was that bad.
I think it's really drastically got worse since he's realised she's still alive. So,
and that there's so much he doesn't know. I think it's really eating at him.
Yeah. Also with the loss of Cassie as someone under his control, and she agreed to a point, and now he's found he can actually abuse the Lover's Knot spell, and that's kind of pushed that obsession over the edge, the point where if he doesn't find out now, it's probably going to kill him. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Went to Fairy to get Mircha, do you think?
I think it's to get him back. That it seems likely. He's always been a bit like, you've got responsibilities, please stop doing this shit. So that was the whole point of their chat when he was having sex with Cassie in ghost form. That's what Marlowe was doing, wasn't he? He was basically like, can you stop like going off and doing your own thing and just concentrate on the war, please?
Yeah.
While he was having sex with a ghost.
But like then that has to be resolved like pretty soon. Like if we're assuming that maybe the concert doesn't survive the series and Mersha will be the logical one choice to step up, because people like Thomas and so on, they just too bitter, too crazy to do the job, then like this has to be resolved before that happens, right? Otherwise it doesn't.
Yeah, otherwise he's a liability. Oh, I assume that it's gonna all merge together and all become one and the same thing, because that's happened in a lot of the previous books, hasn't it, where a subplot that seems like it's not that important becomes part of the main plot and they feed in together. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mitch's obsession with Elena becomes part of the narrative of the war as well, and she's got something important to do with it. She's got to be important. She keeps coming back up again and again and again, and we've discovered she's Fae, and she was important to the gods. So,
But I also read a lot of threads, like, and I never thought about this, but I read a lot of threads saying that, yeah, maybe she's not one of the good ones. Maybe like she wasn't taken by the Fae. Maybe she was rescued by the Fae when like Cassie and Mercer were chasing after her back in time, you know? And I feel like if she has all these powers, she will be important in the war effort. But it would be like really interesting if she was one of the bad guys and Mercer would be completely devastated and everything. But that would also like kind of be like closure for this chapter, that she was never the woman he thought she was. Or
yeah, because he's obviously got a very rose-tinted view of her, because he didn't even know she wasn't human. So his memories of her are very specific. She's not going to be the person he thought she was. No way. She's still the same person.
It would be a hilarious twist if someone had manipulated Mircha's mind of all these memories of Elena and like, oh, you did that to your daughter. How does it feel? The reveal. I think that would be kind of a nice twist.
That would be interesting if actually found out his memories were fake or altered in some way. That would be really interesting. It would explain why she wasn't a typical woman of the time anyway.
yeah.
Why she slapped him. Yeah, I'm fascinated. I can't wait to find out where she's going with that. Anyway, I loved this book. I thought it was probably the best Dory book that we've had.
Yeah.
I really like Karen's writing now. She's gone indie a lot. I think the worry about having to cut things out of books is gone. She can write more. She can write faster. And if it's ready, it can go out. She doesn't have to wait a year. Like the last couple of published ones, she had to wait for, I think she was waiting like 6 months between it being finished and it actually getting published. She doesn't have to wait like that anymore. So I think we're going to get better content because it will be less edited.
But even now, like with the release schedule, I don't know how that all works. But like I expected a Cassie book before this Dory book actually. Like I don't know why, but that's just like in my mind, because like the next Cassie book had been like announced like for so long that I thought that was going to be first. But I love that she like seems to have like more freedom and everything else, and I love that she is obviously still writing and everything. Even if she would just share a Wattpad link, I would obviously read it.
Yeah. I'll read anything. Just put it out, I'll read it. It's like I'm gonna have to send her a message at some point and say, please write a Louis-Cesare short. I will pay you to write a Louis-Cesare short. It doesn't have to be. You can. I want to know why he was why was he on the Titanic? Just tell us something about him. He's really fascinating as a character, and I'd love to know more. Like Pritkin's had loads of stories, and Mitch had loads of stories. I think Louis-Cesare has a story.
I mean, even Tomas has had a story.
Tomas has had one. He wasn't even the love interest. I want a Louis-Cesare.
Claire had one.
Claire's had one. I'm just bitter. Marlowe's had two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leah doesn't even know anybody we know, but she's had her own.
I really need to read those shorts before the short stories before the book comes out. I don't want to be. I should be able to read it without them, I suppose.
She does a pretty good job of like recapping things at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But I love that it's like always congruent. Like it just adds more puzzle pieces to like a picture. But I feel like she still has so much up her sleeve. Like there could be so much we still don't know. And I love that the characters don't know everything. Just because they're related or they live in the same country or under the same senate or work with the same people doesn't mean they know the same stuff. And I love that. And it's not just it's like between like the races and everything, but also like just generally like the way they work, or like their class or power system and so on. It's so realistic. It's just like normal human people who don't know everything, like outside of their circle, they're all in their little bubble. And like Cassie didn't know about Dory for so long, and all these things. Like, how did you not know? Like, you're supposed to be married and you don't know so many things about him, or like generally about the world and that sort of thing.
I
And I
like
love
that we learn the world as they learn the world. So they know their own corners really well. But obviously then as they become more worldly, so do we. So obviously like the Covens are quite new. Like we've not, obviously they've been around a really long time, but we've only just met them. And seeing their world and how it, like, which was the beginning of Brave the Tempest, was it, when she went to the market?
Oh yeah, with the mer people in the
Yeah.
bubble.
It was crazy. It's like that exists in that world and we'd never seen it before, and it was just all
And none
underground.
of the mages know anything about it.
Oh, it's great. I loved that. I love that little look at a world that exists within a subworld. It's like it is a subworld of a subworld, and there's still the veneer of our world over the top of it all, and there are like norms who don't know anything about it. I love that.
Yeah. But I love that it's like organically, and it's not just like a plot device that is then just added onto the story, like once the story progresses, and like you have to fill more books, but like it answers like a lot of questions. Where do the girls come from at the court and so on? Like what is their magic and yeah, these things.
It's an excellent world. Well, that's all my talking points done for the panel. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to stop recording now.